Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Tips for an Independent Artist. My name is Kevin and I work in the capacity building team here at the Australia Council. I look forward to spending some time with you today. First, I would like to warmly acknowledge the traditional owners of countries throughout Australia and pay my deep respect to elders both past, present and future. I invite you to ground yourself, to place your feet on the ground and connect with the country where you are. On the screen at the moment is a maroon PowerPoint slide with some text videos that include our guest speakers and Auslan interpreters. I, the host, am a fair-skinned man with brown hair and wearing a blue shirt today. Welcome to Creative Connections, and I hope that you are finding these sessions useful. Over the coming months, we look forward to introducing you to some amazing speakers that will lead topics that are important to you. We hope to learn together, share and explore how we will adapt and recover from this complex situation we find ourselves in. We will soon announce several additional webinars on a range of topics requested by you and run by you. So please keep an eye out for these and help us share this opportunity with others. Before I introduce you to our guest today, I will just want to quickly recap some housekeeping items with you. First of all, live captioning is available via stream text, and you can find the link either in the chat section or in an email that we would have emailed before. Please note that due to some security changes recently with Zoom, you won't be able to click on links directly from the chat feature. I believe that this feature is coming back in the coming weeks. We also invite you to engage with each other online, so I encourage you to share your thoughts, examples, and response to what our guest is talking to today. We will take some questions at the end, so feel free to pop those in the Q&A section. Again, you can find this feature at the bottom of your player. We will hopefully get to as many questions as we can, but apologies if we can't get to yours. At any point, if you need any help, please put your hand up. If it's technical or you've got a question, someone will be able to respond to you. Again, you can use the hand raise feature that's at the bottom of the screen. And finally, a recording and links and slides will also be distributed to you post this webinar. Also, if you are not aware, and as a quick reminder, that the Australia Council's Resilience Fund is now open and taking applications. The fund includes 3 streams focusing on immediate support for survival, adaptation and creation. Visit our site or contact our inquiries team if you've got any further questions. Then the Australia Council is actively doing research at the moment to understand the impact of arts. Of course, this is a daily changing situation, so please download the report, but come back for an updated version. We'll make sure that we include a link in our follow-up email. So currently on screen is a PowerPoint slide to introduce our guest speaker. There is text and an image of a woman with dark hair. So the impact on COVID-19 on our community is immense. And the impact on our independent artists, producers, curators and writers are being felt even more so. So many of our colleagues are in very difficult situations with limited options. So we ask the question from an artist's perspective, what are the practical ways that we can ensure we sustain ourselves over this period, financially, practically, and emotionally? Lenine Bourke, as many of you might know her, is an independent consultant, artist, and producer, a dear friend and colleague. And today, Lenine will kindly share her personal approach to stabilizing her life while things are changing around her, it seems, again. Lenine, I will hand over to you, but before I do, just a massive thank you for sharing your thoughts with us today, and we really appreciate you being with us. So I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Kevin. And thank you for having me and for everyone joining me today. So I too would like to pay my respects to the sovereign owners of the land on which I am standing on today, the Yagara and the Turrbal. And I'm based in Brisbane. We have had a few little internet glitches, so I apologise if I get stuck in a terrible position. That will be embarrassing, but it will be okay. So I also just want to acknowledge that you're all in various locations all around the country, and to also just extend and acknowledge that the country you're all standing on was never ceded. So how did today come to be about? I'm going to talk for about 30 minutes, and usually I would do a very interactive Q&A, ask as you go, if we were all live and together. But I'm currently doing this from my lounge room, and I've got my teenage friend in the background hoping that the baby sleeps through this situation. Otherwise, you'll hear a bit of crying and then it will go. So let me start at the beginning. Could everybody please go and grab your wallets, your purse, wherever it is that you have money? I can't see you all, so I'm just going to assume that might take a second to go and do. So if you want to go and grab your wallets and bring them back, that would be great. Maybe on the chat feature, you can just let me know when you've come back and I'll see who's gone and got their wallets. Oh, there's even someone from the Philippines. That's exciting. Okay, any of you back yet with your wallets? Let's just see. Yes, okay, thank you. Yep, Judith's back, everybody's back. Awesome, okay. So I love this feature. How amazing is this? Okay, so here's mine. Have a look at your wallet. Is it noisy? How big is it? What color is it? I bought this 7 years ago when I was traveling overseas with my partner at the time and a child. Oh, someone's saying theirs is empty. Yes. Totally, I understand that. So if you open it up, what's in it? Are there lots of cards? Is there sections that have no cards in it, maybe just a prescription? Are there coins? When we did this the other day, Ian just carries a phone. That's all he carries. And just making sure internet's all still good, great. And Kevin noticed he had a lot of gift vouchers. Someone else is saying lots of cards, no money, yes. I've got my wallet, got cards and coins. So what I noticed, which was pretty strange, when I went into my card section, for some reason I had 3 temporary Velocity cards, plus then I had 3 Officeworks rechargeable printer cards, and I think my kid must have stolen one. Oh no, here they are. And I have 3 Medicare cards. Someone's saying they've got $350 worth of bills, not used from last month. Someone's only got it at an A size, so it can fit coins and cards and lipsticks, essential. It's been cleared out. Someone's got MEAA card, petrol vouchers and a license. So I guess the point of wanting to start with something like your wallet is that how many banks have any emergency numbers? Do you carry a driver's license or a public transport? When I first decided to clean my wallet out, it was the first week of the COVID lockdown. I'm just going to shut down chat because I'm getting too excited by the chat feature. My daughter and I were outside. She was running around chasing a ball, and I thought, I'm going to check this out. I had bank cards that were expired by about 2.5 years in mine. I had children's prescriptions that had also long expired. And for some reason, I had strange things like the Melbourne transport card. I had a Sydney transport card from when I was working in many states and territories, and what I had to carry around with me was basically my survival in each of those places. I'm kind of using the wallet, I guess, as a bigger metaphor for the undertaking I just have done in the last few months in my own life. I'm just going to read from a few notes that I wrote here, just because I really want this bit to make sense. So, even though you may notice the weight, the sound, the heaviness, the relevance of the material in your wallet, or the lack of relevance in your wallet, I would argue that that's very similar for artists at this point in time, where many of us are left with a lot of time on our hands, which usually we don't have. About 5 months ago, it became very clear to me that I needed to slow down the amount that I was working and pick up more responsibility for caring for my son. So I have 2 children, age 7 and nearly 2, and my youngest has a whole range of developmental delays, which means every single day he needs to do physiotherapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, etc., etc. And what I noticed was, when I was the person as his only parent, that when I did those things with him, he improved drastically. It was a grief moment for me. It was a grief-filled moment for me, because what had to happen was I had to change my ideas about how I was going to work. I had to change my ideas about how I was going to prioritize my time, and I had to change my ideas about my income. So not only was I starting to make this change in a reduction of my income, and yet my expenditure was staying the same, if not increasing, because the world's an expensive place. But also then I started noticing some of my friends who have good insight for health things that are happening in our community, really start to take this virus seriously and understand some of the forecasts that might be coming around a lockdown and what an epidemic or a pandemic would look like. So I feel like I was literally doing this thinking anyway because of my family. And at the first weekend that we all started locking down, I felt very useless. I felt very sad as I was watching my friends, my own work for the next 7 to 12 months just vanish overnight, as I was watching venues, festivals, galleries, any arts really, as we saw in an article yesterday in The Guardian, has pretty much just evaporated overnight. And what it's all done is it's either all moved online, or people are using it in different ways. They're still reading books and listening to music, but in terms of the Australian arts ecology, we didn't yet have the opportunities to be making our income and generating our artistic way we usually do. So about 4 weeks ago, I saw that some friends had developed that Australian Arts Amidst COVID-19, that amazing Facebook group that if you're not a member of, you should join. I think there's about 16,000 people on it now. And so what I noticed on there was a lot of people very, very reasonably agitated, anxious, stressed, panicked about where they were going to generate their income from. So I've been keeping this little checklist for myself, which was some of the things, sorry, I'm just checking in on the chats here again. Some of the things, thank you, Elliot. A lot of people have lost a lot of work. And what I'd noticed was I'd been keeping this little list for myself that from kind of January and into February, I'd been slowly taking stock about how was I going to survive as a single parent with 2 children with high needs. And I realized maybe if I did some work on that list, I might be able to share it with my colleagues in the arts industry, even just my family and friends, and some of it might be helpful and some of it might be useless. So what I'm going to do now, knowing that I've got limitations on time, but I just wanted to explain that I'm not an arts accountant, although I can use MYOB and Xero, and I've been CEO and artistic director of organisations, and I've reported to boards, and I've worked at the Australia Council, I've worked in local government, state government, worked for a bunch of people. I understand how to make money, and I understand how to spend it. And so as a person, as an artistic director of a small to medium organisation, I was really frugal. I made sure that we squeezed every single cent out of every single project. But yet in my own personal life, I got a salary and I was, lucky. Now I fast forward, and what I noticed is, as a freelancer running as a sole trader, trying to run my own business, it's not so separate. How much time I work and every meeting I go to, I could have 4 or 5 meetings before I even get into a conversation about a contract or making money. And for many of you who are independent artists, you'll know this exact same situation. And hopefully this moment will readdress that down the track. But what I had noticed was that people's incomes were starting to disintegrate before their eyes. And that's the same thing I had noticed by having to provide more care for my son. So These three images on the front, I thought of my, were really important here. The group of children that you can see, yeah, welcome to the world of freelance, exactly. I'd been freelancing for 4 years before this situation happened with my son. So I felt like I had been running a good, solid little business that I could live off. I was doing other things like teaching at university, like we all do, have other offshoots, but I was pretty happy with the trajectory of that business. It was just the personal crisis which intervened, and now we have a global crisis which is intervening. These three images, you can see all that group of kids. That was a photo shoot I did for a project about 4 years ago. All of those children, one of them's my child, the little one off to the left with the bob and the aqua shirt. The others are all children that work a lot in the different projects that I work on. The middle artwork was done out in Burraloole in the Northern Territory by Walking Together artists from Melbourne. And that series of vegetables, which I was very proud of, came from my own garden. I share those because later on, once I talk a bit about income and expenditure, I'm going to jump in and have a bit of a conversation about what I think is happening in terms of a sort of informal share economy. Okay, Kevin, do you mind flicking to the next slide, please? Thank you, Judith. Yes, I do feel like the personal crisis is maybe part of the global crisis. Okay, so Kevin, can you flick to the next slide? Or Laura, is that, there we go. Okay, so I'm just going to try my screen here out of the way. There we go, so we can see better. Okay, so let me just return to my notes again. Getting things in order takes time. I'm just going to read this bit. As I said before, when I've been running organizations, I felt very frugal and very focused on getting the most out of my spending for that organization because it was public funds. Then as I became a sole trader again 4 years ago, I had to tidy up my business resources. I had to register for GST because suddenly I took 2 grants in that year and it spiked my salary way over the amount that you can generate before you have to register for GST. So I asked a very good friend of mine, Sandra Fields, what system she sets up in her business. We met in the coffee shop across the road from my house. She said, you need Receipt Bank, you need Xero, and you need a bookkeeper. She then put me onto this amazing woman who works in my house and we could do it all remotely. And she helped me understand the entire ATO GST system. But now, with a year's worth of work vanishing for most of us, we can't really wait for more income. So the main thing we can actually deal with is expenditure. So that's what I'm going to spend most of my time on today. So just looking here, income, contracted work, not only would I mean, this is my tips section, not only would I suggest that you make sure that if you are owed money, either on a contract that you can't continue, or because you are waiting for a milestone in that contract, you need to have a conversation with the organization who's contracted you. The second thing is that if you've got somebody that you have subcontracted work to, you need to have a really good, honest conversation with them about what and when you would be able to pay them, if and when, and what that would look like in terms of honoring the contract, so that what we don't do is get a bottleneck in the industry. We keep passing it on. But basically making sure, like I realized one contract I had finished in January when I went through this process, but I hadn't actually sent my last invoice. And so I managed to get paid $1,000 from those people, which you can stretch a long way in this context. The second one is thinking about other resources that are pending to you. So for instance, was there a friend that said, hey, I'll give you that $50 back, or I'll give you the $1,000 back that I loaned off you last month? Was there something wrapped up in, let me think, one of your, what did I write here in my notes? Hang on. That's not going to work, of course. Is there some funds that are waiting for you to receive? So for instance, an example I'll talk about later, when I went through and I discovered that I was checking all my insurance policies and making sure that I had the best deal, and I'd gotten a new car, a secondhand car, but I'd gotten rid of my old car. And I had noticed when I called them up, weirdly, they were trying to bill me for 2 policies for the same car. So I was able to say to them, hey, that's not okay. And could you please reimburse me for this magical, strange second policy you took out without my permission? What then happened was that took nearly 3 weeks to get them to actually pay me. So that was $850 that the insurance company owed me, and eventually they paid me, which was pretty amazing and great. But that's the sort of example of other resources pending. If you get royalties, have they been paid? If you have funds wrapped up in a co-op or a group that you're working with, how are you going to disseminate those funds, and is now the time to do that? Centrelink, I think everybody's struggling with Centrelink. Again, there's some good resources in that Facebook group. It's going to take a really long time to talk to Centrelink, register with Centrelink, have a conversation with Centrelink. And my main advice here is if you get rejected, don't worry about that. I've been rejected so many times in the last 18 months for things that I knew I was eligible for. I feel like prior to the pandemic, that was perhaps the policy. And now I feel like that's slightly changed a little bit. So I've included my picture of my daughter there as her version of a professional boxer, because I feel like going into Centrelink, you need to take a little bit of her with you. The ATO, obviously, if you've got a MyGov account, you know that the ATO is linked there. I had a GST bill with the ATO. And one of the things I found out was very simply on the MyGov website, you can actually just work out a payment plan. So while I didn't have a large sum of money like I usually did to pay my GST quarterly, I just started paying it weekly in a much more manageable approach. So it may not generate you income, but making sure that you know what payment is coming by who and when. And then if you're any kind of financial strife, you're actually able to kind of really frugally manage how you would spend that. In the same way in an organization, you would manage cash flow. So if you had a big project and you were pending grants or operational funds to be paid at certain times, you would all be working out your own cash flow as independent artists and when you can then pay yourself how much and how that works. Yeah. So I would say that's the exact same thing now. And in fact, it's probably even more important because cash flow is going to become a big problem very soon. Kevin, do you mind flicking me to the next page? Just quickly check in on the chat. Yeah, I know bookkeepers are amazing. Okay, so expenditure. There's a bunch of different topics here. One thing that I would really encourage you to do, and you can do this digitally if you haven't done it, is work out what money you've got and where the heck it's going and to who. When I posted that, and hope you download the link, otherwise Kevin's team can send it to you. What I noticed was that I had a series of bank accounts which I had been using when my business required more accounts for managing different projects. And now I wasn't managing that scale of projects. If I wasn't putting money into some of those accounts, the very fact that I didn't really understand the accounts sort of requirement, what that, and banks have like a gazillion different accounts for a gazillion different reasons. I used to have a credit card which was linked to a frequent flyers because I was always flying. So I'm happy to use my points to upgrade for a bit of extra leg room when you've been lapping around the country. I don't need to do that right now. So I sat for like hours, can't remember if it was like 3 or 4 hours. I sat in at the bank, I organised childcare, and they basically did like an audit of all of my accounts and advised me which accounts I should shut down, which ones I could change to, how I could change them, how I could use them. I think it's saving me what I think is maybe about $45 to $75 a month just from renegotiating on my bank accounts. Your bills, they happen. You obviously need to manage it. But again, there's a whole bunch of rebates and changes. Some people are able to get delays on certain bills. If certain people have other types of, sorry, just got a message from you guys. So basically what I would just say again is there's a million different online comparison sites. And that you would be able to, hang on, let me just see what's popped up in the chat here. You would be able to see, oh yeah, so people are just talking also about superannuation. Yeah, so you guys can see what Elliot's adding there. Feel free to add your tips and conversations in through here because we'd be able to go back and read the chat. It's a really helpful thing. So with bills, making sure that you've got the right type of electricity for the type of house that you have. And on the attachment, I even had to go and learn the language about like kilowatts and kilowatts per hour and like all this stuff that I had absolutely no idea about. Suddenly I became an expert in electricity providers. I've got a really frugal friend that lives here and I rang that friend and asked them for the best advice that I could get. direct debit. This is what I was saying before. One of the organizations, one of the artists who posted online said he worked out his small group or small organization was spending about $1,000 a month on subscriptions to small groups. Again, I would pick what you want to support and how you want to support them. And then I would say for the time being, the rest of those things probably need to be saved. Groceries, food supplies, travel, insurance subscriptions, housing, superannuation, and the document that I can provide for you guys has got a whole lot of information here. The main thing that I want to talk about is the idea of shame and embarrassment. So because I would have thought I was a person who was really good with money, and you know, since I've been 13, I've pretty much always had multiple jobs. Is the oven turned off just to check? Oh, it's still going. Sorry, guys. And so one thing that I noticed when I'm sitting in the bank, and this really nice young man, but you know, he was maybe 10, 12 years younger than me. And he was looking at my situation and saying, wow, money come in, and I say, yep, that's, you know, from big projects that I've worked on. And then I disseminate it out to lots of artists that I work with. I mean, I don't make that salary. But as I was sitting there, I could see the woman sitting behind me looking at me, and I could see another person looking at me, and I could see him saying, what are you going to do about this credit? Well, you know, it's a project credit card, it gets maxed out and it gets reimbursed. It's like, okay, but it's accruing interest. And literally I felt myself kind of get a little bit tight in my throat, and almost like even now I can feel a bit vulnerable even talking about this. My face started to get a bit red, and I needed to have a little drink. And I just, you know, growing up in a working class family and often having a lot of friends who work in the arts, and a lot of friends who work in other you know, sectors that there's not a high volume of income coming into those communities, talking about money can really bring a lot of vulnerability and can bring a lot of shame or embarrassment to those conversations, particularly when you feel like, you know, you're going in for a conversation with a bank, which I hadn't done since I'd set those accounts up really 20 years ago. And I thought, wow, I actually really want to have more agency. Like, this is what feeds me and my family, keeps a roof over our head, makes us access to healthcare and friends and travel and have a great life. I need to somehow turn this mindset around and get completely in control to be able to do this. And so even putting the document out that I shared that first day, I thought, oh, I'm not going to share it if no one's interested. So I just put it online and said, what, is anyone interested? And about 80 people wrote back and went, yes, please, following, you know, and I thought, well, okay. So then I, you know, deleted quite a lot of the personal information out of it because I was feeling really nervous about that. And then I thought, no, as artists, this is what we do. We share our stories in whatever art form we work in. This is what we do. We invite other people to become vulnerable and share their stories, you know? And so I guess that asking for help, asking for advice, asking friends, like, you know, I've had friends who are online on this chat who have been incredibly supportive of me in this period of time. I've had one not-for-profit offered to pay my electricity bill, my phone bill and my internet in this period of time. I've had another friend who was on salary say, could I contribute a little bit towards your rent until things get sorted out with Centrelink and you're able to work out how you can make an income in this environment. Like, these are very unusual times. And I really, really feel like we need to reach out and connect with each other, brainstorm and use ideas about how we can share the small resources that we've got in the arts, but also all those other people who are sitting in more secure workplaces, who are part of our family and our community and our networks. We need to invite the artistic practice that we're revising, and we also need to be able to reach out and ask for help and guidance and to have these really hard conversations about money, when I know most of us just want to talk about the art. We don't really want to talk about, you know, where's the milestone in the contract, but that's part of our professionalization. And while it's not always enjoyable, I think it's fundamental. So what was amazing was when I posted the document up, I just wrote this little note like, hey, if you don't like this, like, just gentle feedback, you know, I was trying to sort of say, just be kind. So that picture there is a picture of my daughter at Footscray Community Arts Centre at Arts Front a bunch of years ago. Someone gave her this amazing bunch of balloons and she's popping it. And I feel a bit like this is when you work out where your money's going. Some of the balloons stay afloat and other ones definitely deflate and fall to the ground. could you just move us on to the website, Kevin, that I gave you? So the third thing I really want to talk about is this idea of a share economy. And I'm only going to spend kind of 2 minutes on this, really. So obviously, you know, there's Uber, there's Airbnb, there's like 4,000 different names I could talk about, which are, we've just had a baby wake up, so we'll see how things go. With a whole series of big startups, I would call them, that work in what we call the share economy. And you don't need to dig very far to understand at the moment that, you know, people bought fancy Lexuses so they could become Uber drivers, and they're still stuck with the loan repayments. Some people bought second properties to mortgage, to pay the mortgage through Airbnb. Those guys don't have tenants living in it, but they're still stuck with the mortgage. What I was interested in was not talking about the sort of the pressure that gets put on the supply chain of that commercial end of the share economy, but actually some really great information that I've kind of, I guess, picked up along the way from a lot of different artists. But, you know, I can think of people, a lot of people working in Sydney that kind of led me to understand some of this stuff internationally. Lots of people working in this space. I mean, domestically, where we understand the concept of sharing. And as artists, I think we're actually really good at it because we do things, you know, the same, we do things on the smell of an oily rag, but also what we do is we manage to invite other people to bring resources in. It's a great little website. I love their motto that it's people-powered solutions for the common good. This is their website. This is the page I wanted to bring you to because in essence, this feels a little bit like the how-to guide to help you share more in your community. And there's even some stuff on there. If you just scroll down the top little bit, I mean, again, taking that many, you know, communities from a whole series of diverse backgrounds have been working in these share ways, you know, in this country for 60, 70, 80,000 years. So I'm not trying to add just a kind of a cool website, which I think this is a really great website, to not truly acknowledge the ways that the country that we stand on has got very, very, very long traditions of resource sharing and collaboration and understanding how to take care of country and culture and people to really make sure that everybody benefited. And likewise, in many communities all around the world, people are running food banks and food sharing resources, and people are running sewing groups and micro enterprises, and particularly in many poor countries and developing countries, but also in particular culturally diverse communities, in the LGBT community, in the disabled and CRIP communities. Like the knowledge and sharing and get-arounds and ways that people collaborate and bring ideas to the surface is part of the ways of moving forward. So I just want to acknowledge that what I'm saying here is not revolutionary by any stretch of the imagination. And I think in the arts, we're a particularly interesting sector because I feel like we do a lot of this anyway. You only need to look at places like La Mama and with their fire incident last year and how the community rallied together. It's similar. There's stories all around the world of this. So I'll just leave that point there, but just to acknowledge that sharing in communities is a long-standing tradition. And slowly capitalism and globalization and heteronormativity and the individualization of families and houses and the nuclear unit has really stopped us from doing what humanity's been doing for a very long time. So a little while ago, I found this thing through looking through Sharing Cities, and I noticed that they had a how to get started right the way through. So Kevin, do you want to just jump on food just for an example? They have 300 different types of topics and examples here that you can use. And so then you scroll down and heaps and heaps and heaps of different ideas pop up. So there's not only how to share a vegetable garden, there's how to start a crop mob, there's how to share a chicken or two, there's how to raise chickens, there's how to start farmers markets. There's also how hosting like a baby food swap saved my sanity and fed my child. Like I plan to read that one later. 10 tips for starting a food co-op, a make-bake food swap session. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. If you just scroll down, there's even seed sharing. Just keep scrolling down, Kevin, and you'll just find the hundreds and hundreds of topics. I know it is. It's really amazing. So I just sign up to their e-news, and sometimes what I get is, hey, Detroit's doing this, and maybe Perth's doing that, and this is what's happening, you know, in Jogjakarta. Yeah, I mean, family stuff, how to create a walking school bus in your neighborhood, particular favorite of mine. A webinar on how to start a childcare cooperative. I mean, all of us at home working with children, I don't know what we're all going to do, but anyway, starting a tool library, transportation, it just goes on and on. So I guess I wanted to share this because there's probably, you know, so many of these resources that already exist. And like someone's saying here, there's a lot of direct food happening at the moment. And you can definitely look up, like our local cafe started doing veggie boxes. You know, I would definitely say one of the main points here is at the very top, Kevin, there's a little document that says how to get started. And the first thing that they suggested was to get in touch with the sharing that already happens around you. Decide if you are a natural starter or a joiner. To save time and start efforts with people and institutions that save time, and don't save your efforts with people and institutions that don't need to be convinced of this work. Use saving money as a reason for getting started. Sit and talk with people and stay inspired. So I think my last PowerPoint slide, Kevin might just say something like along the lines of that. And I think that's it. The first, the document that I wrote is available, and I've sent it through to the Australia Council so they can forward it on to everybody. And that's really my 30, 40 minutes, how long of some of my tips.
Well, Lenine, listen, that was really great to be able to get, you know, such a personal and sharing and approach to what you've been doing. So, listen, it looks like there's a bunch of questions that I think we should maybe get our teeth stuck into, if you're okay with that. So, everyone, let's create a bit of a conversation. Are there any sort of questions? Feel free to either pop some questions into the Q&A section of the of Zoom, or sort of keep maybe making some comments. So, okay. Lenine, have you seen a question come through?
Yeah, there's a question there about a sponsor and artist initiative. I did notice that someone set up like a support an artist, like a, it was a philanthropic kind of idea that the artist could put on a kind of pitch and someone else could match them. There's a group called the Creative Alliance. They're on Facebook. They're based in Southeast Queensland, on the north of Brisbane. They've got a web page that they've put online with about 100 different available opportunities. And they list the idea of how you can directly link through that website to support an artist.
Okay, listen, there's another question that's come through from Felicity. So thank you for the tip about Receipt Bank. How easy is it to use?
Receipt Bank. It's really great. I just have it on my phone and I have it on my computer, and it's literally like taking a photo of your receipt and it uploads. And then what happens is there's a code that you can link Receipt Bank through to other mechanisms. So I linked it through to Xero. I then paid, when I was using it, really maxing it out, I think I paid $30 a month for my Receipt Bank membership so that I could upload as many receipts as I needed to. The thing that you can do in Receipt Bank is you can code them as well. So you can say, you know, these receipts for this car parking this day were for project A, and all of that catering and food and paint equipment I needed to buy is for project B. And then when it sends through to Xero, which is the bookkeeping end of that, it's already allocated it all to your project expenses. So if you're doing a checks and balance, I guess, like against your cash flow from your bank account, you can even get your bank account statement sent through to Xero. So it's a really easy, just flick, 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 flick. Yep, I did spend $35 on paint on that date, and there is a receipt provided for it. So if you got audited at tax time by the ATO, the whole mechanism just sits there.
Okay, listen, there was another question about, you mentioned that you spoke to some friends and you got some advice on your bills and so on. And this person had similar offers. And the question is, how do you move sort of past that, the guilt over this? You've spoke about this a little bit earlier. You know, we don't want to feel like a charity case, but do you have any more tips about how to move beyond that?
Yeah, I just set timeframes on things. Where I've had to loan money off friends, for instance, it is a loan and I have an agreement with them how I'm going to pay them back. If that's $10 a week or that's $100 a week, whatever you can afford to pay back, I think like any contract, having something in writing between friends or family, make it really much better so that it's not... you don't feel beholden to them every time you see them thinking, oh my God, if I got some money in my wallet, I can give it them. You just keep it really formal. That's what I did with it. The one friend who said, can I contribute something towards your rent for the next 8 weeks till the Centrelink stuff sorts out? I was like, what about just a fortnight? And she basically just said, just be quiet and give me your bank account details. So I kind of went, oh, okay. And then what I've decided is every Monday when that money comes into my bank, I just send her and her family a message of thanks in the same way I would with a philanthropist. Like many artists invest in each other's work by coming to see each other's shows. We give each other time, we give each other resources. We might make an investment through a GoFund campaign. I mean, I think at the moment as an independent artist, like you just actually have to say yes, because becoming homeless or ending up more in struggle further down the track is actually going to become hugely problematic for the arts industry, because we don't want to lose anyone. We don't want to lose any of our Australian artists or our international artists. We want to keep everybody afloat if we can. And so if someone's got some salary, the other thing is some friends of mine have done a pay it forward. So I have a friend who's in Mexico at the moment, kind of stuck there. So I paid him 10% forward of what they had given me. And I said, you know, I'll put it in a bank account here in Australia, and when you need it, you let me know. Also, I think when I'm on a salary next time, I'm going to offer the same thing. I'm going to ring an artist who I can see struggling and say, can I give you 8 weeks of a small contribution to your rent? That's how I'm going to try to get over the guilt and the embarrassment and the feelings about it. Hope that helps.
Listen, we had another question about from Cinsa. Cinsa, hello Cinsa. Cinsa's actually a participant in our custodianship program, which is one of the programs that our team run, and Ian Artie-Colles, who's sort of in the background, who manages that. Cinsa, you ask how can we get access to the document that you wrote? So we will email that to everyone, but Lenine, remind me on the COVID Facebook page, you've posted it there, and I think you can find it in the file section. Well, hey.
Download. And I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram as well. So you can find me on Facebook. Mostly I use that for kind of work stuff. And also I've got my email address here. It's just lenine@thewalkingneighbourhood.com.au. And my project, The Walking Neighbourhood, has my email address all over it. So you can find me there as well. Otherwise, I'm really happy for Kevin to pass on my details. But yeah, it's Australian Arts Amidst COVID-19.
Right. Well, Lenine, before we maybe wrap up, is there anything else that you wanted to cover? Any advice or any sort of final thoughts that you want to leave us before we break for the weekend?
No, I mean, I just think, you know, thank you so much for setting these sessions up, Kevin. This is great, having some big chunky times. I'd encourage people to go and check out Little Artists Online with Feral Arts. You can go to their Arts Front page. They do half an hour at lunchtime. Elliot and Sarah Norm will be able to put you in that direction. I just think things feel tense in the world. And if you know that you can just cover your bases, what it gives you more time to do. I suggest, like, when I first started this, I just sat at the computer and went, oh no. And I realized I needed to write myself a list and just kind of work through them. And then I found more rabbit holes. I would say sometimes this kind of business life admin could easily take your whole day up, but just give it 2 hours a day, give it half an hour, give it 20 minutes. Just start somewhere and then you're able to kind of move from there, because otherwise it'll come 6 months down the track. And all the opportunities that are available to you now, particularly around reductions in certain expenses, may not be available in 6 months' time. And why shouldn't artists be able to get access to those like anyone, when most of us live well below the working salary line in Australia? So my encouragement really is talk to friends, even form a small support group who help each other get through, you know, banking and insurance, and think of some good share ideas in your community. But thanks for having me, everyone. I mean, this feels so strange to be the person who's like publicly outing all of my personal financial details, but I just actually think like we have to talk about this, because this is just one of the most massive things that we're all going through, and everybody's pretty frightened. So solidarity to you all, and I'm here if anyone wants to chat online. But thank you so much for inviting me, Kevin, and thanks to your team. You guys run a really great, smooth operation. Thank you to the interpreters and also the people doing the audio captioning. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Lenine, for doing so. And it was great having you today. Just before we shoot off, just a quick reminder, next week, very related to some of what we talked about, we have 2 sessions. The first one is coaching, mentoring, and peer support. And also contract management. So I'm hearing from some experts. We've partnered with Arts Law Centre to do an overview of really understanding contracts, things like force majeure, and a range of other options available to you if that is relevant to you. And then also the fantastic Professor Judith McLean from QUT and Queensland Performing Arts Centre, and also our arts leaders lead facilitator will be doing the coaching session. So that is Wednesday and Friday next week. So thank you again for joining us today, and we will see you soon.